Leo bowed respectfully to the upperclassman. "Greetings, senpai." Rizamua questioned. "Why are you at the Hero Tower?" Leo looked up, smiled at his upperclassman, and asked the same question. "So, why are you at the Hero Tower?" Ri chuckled. A freshman who isn't afraid of me at all. Bold enough to walk straight into the student council president's office." Leo tried to explain. "I wouldn't call it walking straight into." Upperclassman Ri didn't seem to care and switched into HR mode. "You should seriously consider joining the night department. What do you say?" In situations like these, Leo just needed to flash a confident smile. The entire school was full of recruiters trying to hire students. He thought to himself, "Am I already tired before the main topic even starts?" After a short walk, they arrived at the student council president's office. Leo knocked on the door. "President Reese, this is Leo Plove. May I come in?" "Come in," a voice responded from behind the door. Reese was busy reading documents. Seeing Leo enter, he smiled. "What's the matter, Leo?" Leo didn't beat around the bush and went straight to the point. "I want to access the restricted library." Hearing this, the president's cheerful expression faded, and he looked at Leo thoughtfully. "I know you're not the type to joke around, but there are only 2 ways for a normal student to enter the restricted library. The first way is to conquer the hero dungeon. According to custom, the person who conquers the dungeon will return the pages they acquired to the hero records themselves. As for the second way," Reese rested his hands on his chin. Grinning, "I'll tell you once you join the student council." Great. Another hour, Leo thought. A few days later, the practical exam for the night department arrived. Carl was excited. Finally, the night department's first practical exam has arrived. Lots of people are coming to watch. You can't watch a fight like this without popcorn. Chelsea was feeling apathetic. It seems Carl is really passionate about his business ventures. Hayes. Eliana patted her on the shoulder. Haha, that's just Carl. It seems like he'd still make money even if he wasn't in Lumern. Leo had also arrived at the field. He looked around. It doesn't look like Chloe is here. The time for the event arrived. The students had all gathered on the field and the stands were filled to capacity. Professor Ain, with his arms crossed, announced, for the first match, Halil Snafe from Class 1 and Leo Plove from Class 5. Please step forward. The 2 students called quickly stepped forward. Carl suddenly noticed Professor Sejin in the back, so he happily ran over to greet him. The professor asked, "What's the matter, Carl?" The boy cheerfully presented his wares. "Would you like to buy some popcorn and soda?" The professor sighed. Do you think I would buy that?" asked Harlan. Carl turned to look at Celia. She nodded, understanding, then approached, opening her wide, sparkling eyes and said in a spoiled tone, "Professor, would you buy us popcorn? Wow, it looks really good." The other students also joined in chanting the teacher's name. Their enthusiasm to buy his goods even more intense than that of the students fighting on the field. Sejin was silent for a moment and then said slowly, "Give everyone 1 each." Carl's eyes lit up. Jackpot. He quickly obeyed the professor. On the field, Leo smiled at his opponent. "Good luck to you, my first opponent." Halil's gave an eerie smile and licked his lips. "It seems like you don't care about me at all. You'll regret that." A green light emitted from Halil's. Surrounding him, he was a night department student from the hero family of the Snafe clan. This match was the midterm practical exam for the night department. Everyone would pass the exam by winning 5 matches in the duels. In the stands, people started to discuss it. I wonder what the class representative skills are like. Since Leo is majoring in 3 subjects, he'll definitely have a disadvantage compared to those who only focus on one. Don't forget that Halil's is ranked 3rd in Class 1. Right after Celia and Duran, Halil's took out his spear, the green mana around him becoming more and more visible. He spun the spear, thinking, Leo Plove, that arrogant guy who's always around Celia. Today I'll teach him a lesson he won't forget. Ain announced clearly. The one who makes his opponent unable to fight will win. Treat this match like a real battle. Suddenly, Leo felt a dark aura emanating from very close by. He turned around, looking at the building where the aura came from. At that moment, Chloe was inside her room, engrossed in writing. Around her were stacks of books piled up like mountains. After a while, she still hadn't come up with anything useful. She was furious, stood up, tore the paper in half, and trembled. No, no, no way I can create this unique magic with just my own abilities. She bit her lip, swept all the books and papers off the table. She remembered Leo, and a feeling of competition burned inside her. I absolutely cannot lose to him in this practical exam. Her eyes suddenly stopped at a magic book on the floor. With this, I can win. Chloe's eyes glowed with ambition. This time, I'll definitely win. Over on the field, Leo was still looking at the building, assessing what kind of aura it was. Halil's rushed towards him, smirking. You were too careless. I caught you. The spear in his hand flew towards Leo. He tilted his head to dodge it, recognizing that his opponent's weapon was the serpent spear. Halil's didn't hesitate and thrust his spear straight toward Leo's chest. He calmly grabbed the spear with his bare hand, looking directly into his opponent's eyes with an easygoing expression. Halil's gritted his teeth. What kind of power is this? He muttered. Leo pulled the spear strongly towards the back. Halil's, who was holding tightly onto the weapon, was suddenly pulled along, receiving a devastating punch straight to the face. He spat out orange syrup and flew far away. Leo smirked. Who said I was being careless? You're still too young and inexperienced. Halil's quickly got up, a green snake appearing in the air. He smiled. Don't get so cocky. The match has only just begun. He was so confident because he thought Leo was a guy who couldn't even use auras. Having great strength didn't mean the basic weaknesses had been dealt with. Halil's released a large amount of green aura at Leo. Leo looked up, observing the situation, and then said, Toxic aura? How unique. With that, Leo began to unleash his fire aura. A bright red light flashed, and then quickly engulfed Leo. Halil's was still confident at this moment. Unless it's at Celia's level of fire aura, it's very hard to push me back. Haha. Leo's eyes narrowed. You're the one who's always being careless. In the blink of an eye, Leo was right in front of his opponent. Halil's was alarmed. In the stands, the crowd cheered. Duran frowned, watching the match. Celia was surprised. Leo, when did you boost your fire aura to this level? Halil's was startled. What? Celia's level of fire? Is someone really powerful enough to try and surpass all the elements? He whispered. I was originally going to use this move to defeat Celia. He released a white-purple light. It was the snake prison move. I didn't expect to have to use it on someone like you. Leo Plove. Leo calmly observed the green snake wrapping around him, thinking to himself, oh, not bad. Halil's was triumphant, eager to see Celia's expression. What do you think, Celia? I made this technique to control your flames. Celia sighed and pointed at something on the field. Halil's followed her gaze, looked at Leo, and saw that the snake wrapped around Leo was being burned, gradually becoming transparent and then disappearing. Halil's eyes widened in anger and disbelief. He growled and charged at Leo. Leo leisurely drew his sword, slashed, and sent Halil's spear flying, causing him to fall on the field. Leo smiled, pointing his sword at Halil's neck and warned, don't let your guard down until the fire is completely out. The match ended. Ain declared Leo Plove the winner. Chelsea cheered joyfully, yelling loudly, Triple A, that's Leo for you. Carl was generous with his praise. Amazing, I knew I could trust you. Leo. Halil's admitted defeat, impressed that Leo was this good even in training. It was no wonder that Leo was on par with Celia. While he was still in a slump, the goddess Celia approached him, praising him. That was impressive. Excellent work. Halil's, blushing, forgot all about his loss and smiled. Blushing. Really? You thought it was cool? Haha. Professor Ain announced. Next up, from Class 5, Eliana Layden, stepped forward. She was brimming with fighting spirit. Alright, I've been waiting. Who's my opponent? Without making her wait long, her opponent was Chen Xia. From Class 1, she was stunned. What? Why does it have to be one of the 3 strongest in the class? Fire versus water. Xia greeted her opponent. Please, go easy on me. Eliana responded. Yeah, you too. The match began. Xia summoned water, while Eliana pulled out her fire sword and rushed toward Xia. Leo folded his arms, already predicting the match. Eliana is gonna hurt after this. As predicted, the tip of her sword touched the water and was immediately knocked back. The entire person was steaming. The winner of this match was Chen Xia. Eliana smiled and sat up, proudly grinning. But I still didn't flinch against Chen Xia. Leo commented. The match was disadvantageous from the start. But if you were calmer, you could have done better. The next match was Celia from Class 1, facing Duran from the same class. Celia turned her head to look at her friend and smiled. HMPH. It'll be fun facing you. Duran's face was tense, he didn't respond. Carl was stunned, sitting and eating popcorn, incredibly eager for the match. Just then Leo approached. This match will be interesting. The two warmed up, summoning their powers, lightning versus fire. The entire stands were amazed. Let's see who the strongest knight of Class 1 is. And the fight began. They drew their swords, clashing together with sharp slashes. They were evenly matched. The students who were watching were blinded by the light emitted from the fight. Wow, is this the skill of the top students? Carl asked. Who do you think will win? Leo? Leo slowly ate his popcorn and predicted, based on appearances, Celia will win. Carl was indignant. You're so cold. Leo didn't say anything, he thought, but with Celia's eyes, she must have a secret move to turn the tide. Down on the field, Duran didn't flinch. He moved swiftly, using his lightning-fast speed to counterattack. A slash from his sword cut through the air with a sharp, whistling sound, releasing a streak of electricity. Celia tilted her head to avoid it, but the cold lightning grazed her face, leaving a deep scratch. She raised her sword to block Duran's attack, and then raised her sword to the sky, activating all the power of her fire skills. A massive pillar of fire burst around her body, and then gradually spread throughout the field, causing the temperature to rise rapidly. The audience immediately gasped. This is not a joke. Leo praised. Celia is using her brain very well. Carl didn't understand the situation. Why? What's happening? Leo explained. The training room in the first-year building is quite small. Celia realized that it's hard to keep up with Duran's speed, so she turned the training room into her own stage. Now, within that blazing dome of fire, Duran's movements will be limited. The high temperature is also affecting his vision. She was amazing already, but now she is even stronger. Celia. Celia smiled at her opponent, while Duran was busy using his hand to shield his face from the heat. Celia suddenly appeared from behind and slashed at him. Duran startled, dodging and hastily raising his sword to counterattack. But Celia was a step faster, and grabbed Duran's sword. She smiled triumphantly. I caught you. Then she leaned her head back and slammed her head into Duran's, making him drop his sword and fall backward on the field. The winner of this match was Celia Zerdinger. The audience cheered endlessly because of the amazing fight. Celia waved her hand. Why don't you try improving your stamina, then? She reached her hand out in front of Duran. He held his head, sat up, and frowned at Celia, but then stood up and grabbed her hand. Celia's fan club was incredibly moved and impressed, constantly taking photos to capture this amazing move. Leo smiled. Training is paying off, Celia. At that moment, a hand reached from behind and grabbed a handful of popcorn, shoving it into their mouth and eating greedily. Leo turned around. It was Professor Herod. He mumbled while eating. Celia really won. Then turned and walked away. Thank you for the explanation. Class representative. Leo looked confused. He didn't know when the professor had been listening. The night department practical exam ended. Celia Zerdinger, Duran Moira, and Chen Xia won 4 matches and lost 1. While Leo maintained his winning streak of 5 consecutive matches.